Hey guys, just going to show you a real quick technique on using the scale and shear functions of the edit tool in Opentoonz in order to very quickly create squash and stretch, which you can use for anticipation and follow through in your animations. So what I have here is an animation of this lizard standing there and then turning from this position to this position. And I only use one in between frame between this position and this position, but by using shear and scale, I create a sort of squash and stretch anticipation and follow through. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got for. So as you can see, the lizard has a little bit of anticipation and then has a little bit of follow through. Alright, so let's take a look at it without the anticipation and follow through. It's fairly abrupt. You blink and you miss it. Which, it is a lizard, so that's not completely out of character. The lizards tend to move that way very, very abruptly. But because it's an animation, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little more character by adding some anticipation and some follow through. And I'll show you how to do that very quickly with the scale and shear functions of the edit tool. So to create a bit of anticipation, we're going to have him squash into the ground before he lifts his legs up and tosses himself over to the side like this. So this is the action he's anticipating, so we want him to be squashed by this point. Let's go ahead and start the squash right about here. Right here we're going to set a keyframe, and then if we go down, there's the moment of action. We'll have his squash right here. So we're going to select our edit tool, set it to scale, and now we're going to hold control. And when you hold control, it locks the scaling either to the horizontal or the vertical axis depending on how you drag your mouse. So holding control, I'm going to click and drag down and make a nice squash. Now one thing you might notice is that as I squash him, his feet move up. His feet and his belly move up. And this is because of where I have the center point set. Wherever the center point is, when you scale, it's going to scale in towards the center point. So right now, it's taking whatever's above the center point and bringing it down towards the center point, and whatever's below the center point and bringing it up towards the center point. Therefore, the feet are moving up, which this is a problem because instead of it looking like he's squashing down into his feet, it seems as though he's squashing up into his center. It doesn't look as though he's standing on the ground, or perhaps the ground is moving up, which we don't want. We want the ground to look solid, and we want it to look like he's squishing down into his feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the center point. Take our edit tool, take the center function, and we're going to move the center point down to his feet. That way when we scale, it's going to move everything above down towards his feet and everything below up towards his feet. And there's not really much below to move up towards his feet. But this will maintain the illusion that he's squashing down into his feet. So we're going to go back to our scale function, hold control, and now when we squish, you can see he squashes down into his feet. And that maintains the sense that he's on the ground and pushing down into his feet. So we're going to go ahead and squash him down. We'll say to about there. And let's see what we've got between these keyframes. So he squashes down as he blinks, and then boom. So now we'll have him come out of the squash. We can go down to here. And there's a number of ways we can do this. We could copy this keyframe by clicking it, holding shift and dragging it, and that will essentially have him bounce back to the position he was originally in up here. Or, to be more specific, we can go to this position, go to our function editor. We are working on column 4, so we're going to select column 4, and it'll show us all of its coordinates. If we look at frame 11, which is where our first keyframe was set, we want him to go back to the scale values at 11. So if we look at 11, the scale values, horizontal and vertical, are both 100. So we're going to go down to 19, double click, type in 100, hit enter. And we'll do the same for the vertical scale. Be sure you have it highlighted. 100, enter. So we have a nice squash, and it comes out of the squash. Next, we're going to add some follow through with the shear tool. And by follow through, what I mean here is I want, as he moves to the left, I want, even though his feet have stopped here, his feet have stopped in the ground, I want his body to continue moving because of the momentum before it settles back down to this position. So what we're going to do is we want him to start following through right about here. We'll go ahead and set a keyframe. And then we'll have him follow through to about here. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take our edit tool, set it to shear, and we're going to hold shift. When you hold shift, it'll lock which axis you're shearing on. Because if you don't hold shift, it's just sort of constantly shearing on the horizontal and vertical axis, and it's pretty hard to control. So we're going to hold shift, that way we can shear on the vertical axis with more accuracy. And we're going to pull to the right to shear him to the left. And yet again, as you can see, we have the foot moving its position. This isn't good. We want the foot to always stay grounded. So we're going to go back to here and we're going to undo our shear. And we are going to set the center down on his foot. This is where we want all the action to circle around. So go back to shear, hold shift, click and drag to the right. And there, as you can see now, his foot stays right where it is. Everything else is moving around his foot. So it really gets the sense that he has landed his feet, but his body is still kind of moving to the side before it comes back. So let's see what we've got now. A little squash for anticipation, slaps his foot down and shears to the left. I think that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and return him to his original position. And this time we're just going to copy this keyframe and bring it down to here. Squash, follow through, and he returns back. And it looks a little distorted when we see it play it slowly like this, but if we play it quickly, we have a nice little bit of anticipation and follow through. Now you can go through and edit this. Now I think this shear might be a little much, so I'm going to go ahead and bring him back a little bit. Okay, and let's see it now. It's still maybe a little much. Let's bring him in to about there. Let's see what we got. So there you have it. Pretty quickly, using the shear and the scale function, as well as manipulating the center point so that we can shear and scale effectively, we went ahead and created a nice little bit of anticipation and follow through